Hi, welcome to STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom. I'm Michelle Kempema with Colorado Model Railroad Museum, and I have with me Peter Romero.
Science geek extraordinaire.
And we're here to talk about the moon today.
Yeah, our closest celestial neighbor.
Yeah. We have a lighted moon prop here today, which I think is really fun. So I
love that.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun with the moon. So let's talk a little bit about the moon. So I've always heard that you'd never see the backside of the moon. Why do people say that?
Well, it's because the same side of the moon always faces the Earth.
Okay.
Due to an effect called tidal walking. It's a little complicated, but basically if you have an object that's in a stable orbit, over time it will just naturally always face the same way toward the planet.
Because it's just moving like this.
Yeah. The reason for that is, so like, if you've got the moon that's like a circle, a sphere.
Okay.
The gravity of the Earth kind of compresses it a little bit. This is an exaggeration.
Yeah, because the moon
doesn't look like this, but it does do that a little bit. And so, like, if this was the Earth, the pointy part of the moon would be like this. And if the moon didn't always point the same way, then it would like distort. It would have to distort.
So it has to do with like the magnetic pole or the
not
gravitational
the
pole?
gravitational pole. So, like, if the moon was constantly like rotating in respect to the Earth, then it would be undergoing all of this stress.
Oh.
And it just takes less energy for it to always point the same way rather than like deforming.
So that's just how it's started moving in space.
Yeah, it's more energetically favorable, they say.
And I've heard that the moon has gravitational pull on the Earth too.
It does. It causes our tides.
Yeah, why the tides go up and down. If you've ever visited the ocean and seen tides go in and tides go out.
About twice a day the ocean goes higher and lower because of the gravity of the moon.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting when I learned that.
It is.
So let's talk about some phases. What is a phase?
Well, viewed from the Earth, the moon is in a position in relation to the sun, and so different parts of the moon are illuminated. And so when the sun is kind of more behind the moon, we see it as a crescent or a new moon. And then when the sun is to the side, we see it as like a half moon. And then when it's more toward the opposite direction of the moon, then it's full.
Oh, that's cool. In just a minute, we're going to do an example of that.
Yeah.
But first, I want to talk about, especially on this moon, you can really see why are there sometimes dark spots when you look at the moon?
The man in the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what is that all about?
Well, you might think they're craters, but they're actually not.
They're not craters? I always thought it was craters on the moon.
I think I did too. But they're called Maria in Latin, which is a Latin word that means seas. They're not seas, but they are volcanic plains.
Volcanic plains. So there was volcanic activity on the moon.
There was. And interestingly, like the Maria only exist on the front side of the moon. On the back side, there aren't any. And we don't really know why.
That's interesting. Yeah, because all these spots and stuff are on the front. I actually have a photo here that was taken by NASA from one of their satellites that is outside of the moon's orbit. And the way this lined up is that there was full sunlight on the moon, and you can see there's not as much dark spots in it.
That's so cool.
And so it's the first time that NASA got a photo of the backside of the moon in full sunlight.
Wow.
So it was a pretty neat phenomenon that
now,
happened.
you may have heard like people talk about the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
But that's not accurate because all sides of the moon get sunlight at different times.
So it's not actually dark.
No, it's
There's
just,
like a place where you cross this border and now you're in the...
No, it's just the part of the moon we can't see because it's pointed away from us.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah.
So if you go outside and look at the moon, it rises about 50 minutes later every night.
Really? And so it just progresses through that until it goes around. And we see it in the daylight sometimes.
Sometimes we do. So
is that why? Because of that progression?
Yeah, because about every 30 days the cycle repeats. It starts as the new moon. You see it in the west as a little sliver, fingernail moon, I call it.
Yeah.
And then every night it gets a little bit fuller. It goes from like crescent to half moon, and it moves east every night until like half moon, it's like right up in the south. And then as it goes east, it gets fuller and fuller until like full moon, which rises in the east, and you see it kind of right at sunset.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So much about just this little satellite that goes around our planet.
I know, and it's pretty big in relation to a lot of the other moons of other planets.
Is it really? Is it a lot bigger than, well, probably except maybe Jupiter, but...
Well, it's not bigger than like Jupiter's moons, but like in relation to the size of the planet, it's a pretty big.
It's pretty big. Oh, I see what you're saying. In proportion, just like in modeling, proportion, it's pretty big compared to Earth.
It's about a sixth of the volume of Earth.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's why the gravitational pull is like that.
It's about a sixth.
Because it's about a sixth. That's interesting.
Yeah. So what else were we going to talk about? So we were talking about phases. I just wanted to throw this in there. other planets in the solar system also have phases, which isn't completely apparent.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't think about that. I only think about the moon having phases.
But if you're looking through, you can't see them with your naked eye, but if you're looking through a telescope or binoculars at Venus or Mercury especially, when Venus is like on the other side of the sun from us, it's a full Venus. And it's really bright.
Because it's lit.
Because it's
the
lit.
sun is in between us.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when Venus is like on the side or
And the sun's over here.
then you get like a crescent Venus.
Okay.
And you can actually see that through telescopes.
Because the Earth is blocking the light from hitting Venus. So the crescent is made by the Earth.
Yeah, it's made by the angle of the sun and the planet.
Really interesting.
So we made this activity for you.
And that's downloadable in your kits.
Yeah.
So
So tonight's March 17th. So we actually had a new moon a few days ago. So I've marked off the 14th, 15th, and 16th here. Below each day, you see how much of the moon is illuminated.
percentage-wise.
Yeah, so tonight the moon is going to be 19% illuminated, and it's a great night to look at the moon if it's clear.
Yeah.
And then as we progress toward this weekend, it's going to be a half moon.
There's so much more of the moon here.
We call this first quarter.
Okay.
And then next week, we'll progress up through 74, 83%, all the way to the full moon, which is actually on the 28th.
Okay.
So a couple Sundays from now. So if you want to just put this on your fridge and then each evening,
Go out and look at it
Go out
and then
and
check it off.
check it off and
Yeah.
have a little moon log.
That's a fun activity.
We have another activity.
We do. We're going to show you an example of phases of the moon. So,
We provided these little styrofoam balls in your kits.
yep. So this is yours. And what you're going to need is a lamp in your house, which this one I picked up at Goodwill the other day for us to have a lamp.
Or a flashlight.
Flashlight
Will
works.
also
Well,
work.
flashlight works is a little bit harder because you don't have the 360, but you could just shine it in the direction you need to be probably with
Yeah.
the flashlight. So, but hopefully you have a lamp in your home. You can just have mom and dad help you take the shade off. And then you take your ball and we're going to show you how to do this.
Yeah, we're going to flip off the lights. We'll meet you back here in a sec. All right, so we're going to do a little demonstration of the phases of the moon here. When the sun is more or less behind the moon from our vantage point, we see the new moon, which you really can't see in the sky very well. And then as the nights go on, you see the little fingernail sliver moon. So as the sun moves kind of this way, you start to see that crescent building. And then when the sun is kind of at a 90-degree angle to the moon, you see it, I always call it a half moon, but it's called first quarter. And then the sun keeps on moving. Actually, the moon keeps on moving. Until it's about illuminated like this. We call that a gibbous moon. And then it keeps on going and we see the
Moon's
full
coming
moon.
back at you. So
Yeah.
And there you have the full moon. And you can
Yeah.
do this with your styrofoam ball. We use the big moon just to show you a little better example.
And then it's interesting. We often forget about the second half of the cycle. It does continue on. Like,
continues on around.
yeah, so we get a gibbous
So
moon
Hannah and I have to change things.
facing
Give you
the other
moon.
direction. Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, she turned it on. There we go. So then you would go this way.
Yeah, and then you get a last quarter moon facing the opposite direction. But most of these phases happen in the early morning, so you wouldn't really see them like 3 a.m. Unless you're
Down
awake.
to a new moon.
Back to the new moon.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom.
Yep. We'll see you next time.